The following podcast is a presentation of This Is Infamous. Listener discretion is advised.
What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to another brand new episode of Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. I'm your host, as always, Billy Donnelly. Thanks for making your way to the podcast, whatever way you got here. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Blueberry, SoundCloud, TuneIn. Just make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you get it delivered to you every single week. And then while you're at it, make sure you rate the podcast. Give us a 5 stars for our 5-star effort. And comment. Let people know what you like about the podcast, why they should be listening to it, so on and so forth. Look, a loaded show. As usual, big surprise there. Plenty of wrestling to talk about this week. Going to talk about New Japan Pro-Wrestling's G1 Climax event. Later in the show, our expert-in-chief Tom Nix will be joining me from an airport to talk about night one of the G1 Climax and the homework that we had assigned, a trifecta of matches we're going to discuss a little bit to sort of set the tone for how the G1 Climax has kicked off. And in just a short bit of time, my good friend Brian Fritz from the Sporting News and Between the Ropes will be here to talk about WWE Battleground with me. Look, lots of wrestling right now, and I cannot stress this enough. This is a fantastic time to be a wrestling fan, and really, and as I'll discuss in just a couple minutes with Brian, as we talk about Battleground and sort of what I thought was a debacle of a pay-per-view. If you're not feeling what is going on in the WWE right now, there are options out there for you. So I know we hear this all the time from people who go, there's just no good wrestling out there. Like there's no good movies out there. There are, if you're willing to look. If you're complacent, if you stay in the same spot, if you just keep watching the same thing and it's not satisfying, it's not fulfilling, there are options out there for you to check out something else. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find something that floats your boat. Now, look, don't take this as a knock against the WWE, okay? Wrestling is for everybody. There's something out there for everybody. If right now you were in a current mindset that the WWE product, either Raw or SmackDown or NXT or both, are doing it for you, more power to you, my friends. I can't knock that if you find something enjoyable in what you're watching, whether it's a match, whether it's a talent, whether it's the shows. By all means, go for it. Keep watching it. Keep enjoying it. Keep riding the wave. But what I'm telling you is, if you're one of those wrestling fans, and I know you're out there, who continue to say, well, I don't like watching Raw, or I don't like watching SmackDown, but you keep doing it anyway, and it's just so you can bitch and complain about it, don't hate watch. Life's too short to hate watch. There's better options out there for you than there probably have been in quite some time. Now, you can go to Global Force Wrestling and watch some of that. Maybe that floats your boat. Lucha Underground is out there. You can watch that. Maybe that floats your boat. Maybe you do some indie shows locally, and that floats your boat. Maybe New Japan Pro-Wrestling, that's what floats your boat. Maybe Evolve is out there for you to watch. You got your Flow Slam subscription. Maybe you're watching the Wrestle Circus streams on Twitch. There are tons of options out there. And right now, with the way that we consume content, you can find it. And it's not very difficult. Whether it is your Flow Slam account, whether it's your High Spots Network account, whether it's your WWE Network account, whether it's your NJPWWorld.com account, the wrestling is there for you to dip into. So don't just keep watching something because you've always watched something and you're complacent and you're afraid of trying something new. Now is the time to try something new. Now is the time to expand your horizons. Now is the time for you to explore and see if there's something else that maybe you like just as much, maybe you like more. And you can watch outstanding wrestling as much as you want, whenever you want, as long as you're willing to really just broaden your horizons. So I'm a big proponent of it. I know I've expanded my horizons plenty more since the relaunch of Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. I hope you continue to do the same. And let's keep enjoying right now what has been a pretty outstanding period of wrestling over the course of its history that's happening to us right at this moment. So find what you like, don't watch what you don't like, and let's keep finding good stuff that brings enjoyment to us in this passion we share together of professional wrestling. All right, let's get my good friend Brian Fritz on the line, joining us right now here on Intelligent Wrestling Conversation to talk about WWE Battleground. You can follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. You can also follow his wrestling expertise at the Sporting News and listen to him on a regular basis on the Between the Ropes podcast, which is available, much like this one, where all podcasts are available. My good friend, my old friend, Brian Fritz. Brian, how are you doing, man? It's been a while since you come on the podcast.
It has been a while. I mean, are we considered old friends now?
I've known you for a while. So
for a while, yeah. I guess we're old friends now.
You're not a new friend.
That's true. So I guess we have gotten to that place where we can say we're old friends.
Yeah, we are old friends. I mean, look, we've hung out and we've had drinks and all the things that people who you are less familiar with, you wouldn't do. So
the last time that we hung out, we stood in a parking lot following an NXT taping and just chatted with one another for probably about an hour.
Yes.
And during that time, a lot of wrestlers left, walked by us, and we even said hi to a few, including, I believe, Nigel McGuinness and also with Mauro Ranallo.
Yes, we talked about McGregor, Mayweather with Mauro Ranallo for a few minutes, and we talked about wings with Steve Corino.
That is very true. We did talk about wings with Steve Corino. I forgot about that.
Yes, we talked about wings with Steve Corino, who, being on a diet now at the Performance Center, was really craving them.
He was very pissed that he could not have wings because he knew the trainer was going to kill him.
Yeah,
if he had wings.
And so later that week, I had wings in his honor. He didn't know about it. I didn't share it with him. But I toasted one of those drumstick ones to him. So yes,
that's very, very nice of you.
I hope that he had the taste by proxy, telepathically. So look, it's very strange that I have you here on this particular podcast because we talk wrestling. When we get together, we always bullshit about wrestling all the time anyway, because this is the things that we love. But it's odd that of all the podcasts that we got you to rejoin us here, it's to talk about Battleground. So
why would you do that to me? If we're good old friends, why would you do that to me?
You know what? I'm gonna be perfectly honest. It took me a couple days to really try and reach out to try and get people on this particular podcast to talk Battlegrounds because I didn't know that I wanted to talk Battleground with anyone. And look, every pay-per-view we get on, we do like a recap, not necessarily a recap, but like a breakdown and analysis, the pros and cons and whatnot. And it is what it is. And this time around for Battleground, I really had to push hard both myself to not only want to talk about it, but to try and seek out someone else to talk about it because I really almost punted. Because you'll hear in a few minutes why. So look, let's just pull our boots up for the shit that's about to come, and let's talk. Let's get our pants up and our boots up high, and let's talk about Battleground. So, Battleground this year was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a hardcore, rabid wrestling city. The main event on tap for Battleground was a Punjabi prison match for the WWE Championship, with the reigning champion Jinder Mahal defending against Randy Orton. Several other matches on the card, which we'll get into in just a few moments. But Brian, going into Battleground, what were your expectations for this pay-per-view, and what did you think going in as far as the matches, the card, like the whole package? What were your impressions going in of what Battleground maybe could be?
I thought it could be a solid show that would feature a fantastic match between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. I thought the tag team match could be really good. I'm not the biggest fan of multi-people matches, but I still thought that the Fatal 5-Way with the women could be really good. I thought there was some potential. The main event, I did not have high hopes on, simply because the mess that is the Punjabi prison, and there's a reason why they haven't pulled that thing out of the mothballs in 10 years. But they weren't overly high expectations, but I thought it could be a solid show, and what did I know?
Yeah, the second you say Punjabi prison match is going to be the main event, my eyes just glaze over. I was going to
say, that's a human eye roll. You don't even have to add it in. You can just hear it.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing appealing about a Punjabi prison match. Just nothing at all. They've done it. I think this is the third one in all of the WWE history. Mind you.
Do you remember the first one?
I think
Who was featured in the first ever Punjabi prison match?
I mean, it easily had to be the Great Khali. Was that the Great Khali and the Undertaker? It was
supposed to be the Great Khali and the Undertaker, but the week of, the Great Khali got pulled for the match because of elevated liver enzymes and got replaced by the Big Show. Remember that stint where three guys got elevated liver enzymes and had to be pulled from shows? That was during that stint.
Jesus, man. I mean,
I'm sorry I brought that up.
I mean, look, just the idea of the premise of the Punjabi prison match alone is horrible.
Right.
And then to try to watch a Punjabi prison match is worse. The sight lines are horrible. It doesn't look good on TV. It doesn't look good if you're in the arena. In fact, the person who has the best view of anything happening in the Punjabi prison match is the guy who has the shittiest seats, because they could see over all of the crisscrossing bamboo. So, look, and I've been a fan of Jinder Mahal getting the nod as WWE champion since this happened. But on top of that, to see now the third iteration of him versus Randy Orton in sort of the WWE repeat machine, also not a match that appeals to me. So,
what I don't get about the match is that they talk about the Punjabi prison match, this dangerous, violent, scary match. What the hell is so scary about it? I mean, both guys, they really wanted to, could bunch up and probably crawl through the cage because the gaps in it are so big. There's nothing scary about it. I mean, you talk about violence. I mean, it's only because they pulled out kendo sticks and chairs and were using them. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing scary about that match. I mean, it's just a bunch of convoluted rules in trying to jump from one cage to another to get out of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other part. So I had really forgotten the rules of the Punjabi prison match.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, and so when the Punjabi prison match starts and they start explaining the rules, you need a pamphlet to fully understand what the rules are. So the Punjabi Prison Match, for anybody who had the pleasure of skipping Battlegrounds, let me just lay out what the Punjabi Prison Match is. So there are two structures, okay? They're not cages. They're structures. They continue to reinforce the idea that they're structures. So there's an inside structure, and then there's a gap that then has an outside structure. So in the inside structure, there are 4 gates that are controlled by a referee. And when a competitor signals for one of the doors to be open, the referee will open it. They will only be open for 60 seconds. And then after those 60 seconds, they lock that door and it's out of play. And if all 4 doors become locked, you have to climb out of that structure. And then once you're outside of the first structure, then you got to do it all again with the second structure, but that one has no gates. So
my favorite part was Jinder finally makes it out of the first structure. And Orton has all the doors closed. So at this point, Jinder's now on the second structure and climbing up. Randy climbs out of the first structure, jumps to the second one, and he's already higher up than Jinder. So Jinder did all of that work to get out of the first structure ahead of Randy and start climbing the second one. And Randy just whisked his way up the first structure, climbed out, jumped over to the second one, and he was farther along in getting out of this thing and winning the match than Jinder was.
Look, the rules for this match are so dumb. And I mean, they're so stupid. And on top of that, the WWE logic comes into play, which then just insults the intelligence of the viewer. So I want to set the stage for this like really quickly. So I was prepared to watch Battleground, and then my wife had a friend come over because we're relocating. So, you know, it's like the last goodbyes of like people constantly streaming in and out of the house. So we had planned for a company to come over, and I was still set on watching Battleground because it's my routine. Pay-per-view comes on, I watch it. So my wife's friend came over and proceeded to sit and watch Battleground. And this was like her first exposure to like wrestling, like at an extended period of time. So like, you know, she's watched like here and there, but never like sat and like really tried to get into it. And I will say, for a while, she did. She got into sort of the beginnings of Battleground. And then by the time we got around to the Punjabi Prison Match, it was all gone. Because so you have these.
Was the best part you trying to explain the rules of the Punjabi Prison Match to her? And when she asked, and you didn't know the rules?
Look, even when they were explaining it, I was still trying to like get my bearings.
This is like, what was it like in TNA that one time they did? I think it was in TNA. Oh yeah, TNA when the first time they ever did the King of the Mountain match, which nobody to this day understands. And I remember that they put like a full screen full of graphics with all the rules of it up. And then they had to go to a second page of graphics to try to explain the rules of the King of the Mountain. I'm like,
it's too complicated.
If you have to go beyond the first couple of lines on the first page, you've already made it too complicated.
It's too complicated. and look, and like I said, they brought WWE logic into this. So as I said, there's four gates in the first cage, and the referee only opens them when he's signaled to open them by one of the competitors who wants to try and escape through that gate. So you would have people who would signal for the gate and then like stand around for like 25 seconds while the gate's open, and then like, of course, as they try to escape, now there's like a conflict, and then the gate would close. And I was like, why wouldn't you not signal to open the gate until you're like standing right next to it, ready to go?
Like Randy Orton signaling for it because he's like, I know I'm going to hit an RKO. And then he doesn't hit the RKO.
He does. He like signals. He signals for them to open the door. They open the door, and then he like does his like Viper coil like mat banging, like as he sets up for the RKO. And in the meantime, tick, 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 because you only got 60 seconds. And do you think he got out of that door? Of course not. This woman who's watching Battleground for the first time is like pulling her hair out over how stupid this has now become. and that's like the epitome of Battleground. Like,
well, I get it. They've got some work to get her back as a fan.
You know, and on top of that, this match is so long.
They went 25 minutes?
According to the official Wikipedia count, which, as we all know, is about as official as you're going to get.
Right.
The Punjabi Prison Match went on for 27 minutes and 40 seconds.
Now, my favorite of it, too, is now that we're in the age of the WWE Network and they're not beholden to pay-per-views, because normally, even though they're just on, when they do these B-level shows, you're like, okay, they're still going to stay with the 3-hour rule. They'll actually go just under 3 hours. You know, they keep to like 250, 255. Not on this night, because Battleground and Punjabi Prison were so important, they went over. They went like 3 hours and 5 minutes, 3 hours and 10 minutes, something like that. I was like, of all the shows of all the B-level shows you're gonna go over on, like you wouldn't go over a Great Balls of Fire with Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, but hell, we got the Punjabi Prison. Let's go over. All the rules go out the door.
Yeah, because when this match started, like it was like, you know, or when I think the entrances started, it was probably about like 10:30, and I was like, all right, well, this is like it's gonna be quick. It's gonna be quick. It'll be fast. We'll get it over with. Like a quick trip to the dentist. You know, like just like let's
it's like a root canal. Just get in there, doc. Pull it out.
Just let's end this as quickly as possible. And it's funny that you bring up the fact that it went over, because the reason it goes over is because the Great Khali is reintroduced to the WWE Universe. So, I mean, it takes him like 8 minutes to slowly walk down to the ring as it is. But I could not think of a more disappointing and anticlimactic surprise than the Great Khali coming back. Nobody liked the Great Khali when he was around before. Why bring him back?
Here's another thing that I did not get with this. Okay, so number one, so Khali comes out, and he's going to stop Randy Orton, who at this point is climbing the second part of the structure. Khali climbs a little bit up the structure from his side. Orton's so high up, though, he has to climb down so that he can be choked by Khali. and then, on top of that, you're thinking, oh, God, does this mean they're going to do a match between Randy Orton and the Great Khali, maybe at SummerSlam? And maybe they will, but to follow up on Randy Orton once again getting screwed out of the championship, neither was on SmackDown.
Ugh. No one cares about the Great Khali. He's big. That's it. That's it.
No. He's from India, and he's a big star, and they are trying to stamp a foothold in that market.
Yes. I mean, look, that is very true. They recently launched like a really big push over in India. That's one of the major factors for Jinder Mahal being in the position that he's in. Boy, he's so horrible. I mean, the Great Khali wasn't good 10 years ago when he was still just big and slow. Right. Now he's older and he's slower. He's never, let's remember when the Great Khali first came into the WWE, they really tried to make him a big deal. Like they really pushed. He was like El Gigante type of like back in those days. God. Yes, like trying to make him a big deal. And he never was, because other than just being big, there's no tools that he brings to the table.
You don't like the over-the-head chop, which is a shoot chop because he actually hits guys in the head and hurts them?
He's not quick. He's not agile.
He can't be quick. You see how big that dude is?
He is slow and lumbering. He is where the WWE used to be. Like, these were the guys that, like, they always wanted. Like, these giant, large freaks of nature that are supposed to be, like, intimidating and a threat. But we have changed. So, like, I mean...
But he's running a wrestling school over in India.
What could you learn from the great Khali?
Dude, he is a massive star in India.
He is.
Like, didn't he have some match? Like, I think it was earlier this year. Like, he had a match with one of his students or somebody over there, and it was like through the streets, and it was like this bloody match where like guys were just beating the hell out of each other, and it was like a juice fest or something.
I mean, look,
I'm sorry that I know this, Steven, but
the great Khali is. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'll give him that. But when the great Khali, but as they say on Game of Thrones, everything before the but is horseshit. But the great Khali does not bring anything to the table in the current day WWE where fans look at that and go, "Oh man, I can't believe this is happening. I'm super excited." It's the great Khali coming out in this match. It was like somebody let off like the largest, nastiest fart in the middle of the arena in Philly. They couldn't have given less of a shit than they did. And I think that's going to continue.
Well, his music, like the music hit, and people are like, "Uh-oh." And like a lot of people didn't remember it or like, please no. And like he came out and people like popped. It was like this, oh, here comes Khali.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
It was a why are they doing this to us?
It was like a laugh. Like, yeah, it's Khali. Oh my God, they're actually doing this. Why are they doing this? Oh no, God, why are they doing this?
It was a pop of disbelief. It was like, oh my God, are they doing Swerved again? Like, is this?
It's like, when Pat Patterson talks about, and the crowd goes banana because he doesn't put an S on anything. That is a literal term. They didn't go bananas. They went banana.
It was horrible. Okay. And this is after, like, and this was like the exclamation point on a pay-per-view that was already pretty bad. To bring the great Khali, I could not, let's put it this way, I could not believe that the crowd in Philadelphia, which as we've already established, is one of the most fanatical wrestling cities that exist, I couldn't believe that they didn't burn that place to the ground.
Well, they had already been numbed to a point earlier in the night watching that show where they were just like in disbelief. And like that just barely woke them up, but it just made them chuckle more than be pissed at that point because they realized this was the end to a 3-hour suckfest.
I mean, I understand the idea of bringing in the great Khali to try and make Jinder Mahal a bigger star in India. But does it help him here?
Well, here's the thing that I get, but I don't understand. Let's put it this way. I get it, but I don't like it. I understand that there's a huge untapped market that they want to do business in India. And now the WWE Network is available there. What I do not like is when they use that to drastically alter their booking. And I know they'll say, well, by doing that, that helps us and get more people interested in the network. And we really don't believe it's going to hurt our base audience because we provide something for everybody. So even if you don't like this, we're going to give you something else that you do like. There is some logic to that. But when you're talking about, catering towards a market in your main event, and we're talking about somebody like Khali, and I agree with you when it comes to Jinder. I'm perfectly fine with him. He'll be in the spot that he's in. I think they need to move on from the point of having the Singh brothers interfere and have him at least win one really good match on pay-per-view on his own to really strengthen in him, as a champion. But it's tough when you're going out of your way to put guys in main event angles that the bulk of your audience isn't excited about, just because, hey, we want to grow, our audience in, another far off country.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I understand the idea of it and trying to get a new population excited about your product by having people from that country heavily involved in a major way on your as part of your product. But at the same time, it also does feel like the cart's driving the horse here, because that's the only place in the world that has to be excited about the Great Khali.
I hope so. I know I'm like, it was so weird. Like, he wasn't on, SmackDown on Tuesday, like I said. So I don't know if that's just, hey, he's going to be on next week or the week after, or was it? I have to think it was more than a one-time thing, and he's going to have a match or two, whether it's at SummerSlam or later on. But of all people to bring back the Great Khali because you're trying to push India, man, that's a tough pill to swallow here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I really feel like it diminishes Jinder Mahal, because this is a guy that, yes, they're trying to get him over, and we'll see what like the long-term plans are for him as far as like holding the WWE Championship. But when the Great Khali comes out, and look, it's not like he's a fresh face. The Great Khali's been around the block in the WWE before, and there's a perception as to who the Great Khali is and what the Great Khali can do. So I think it not only diminishes Jinder Mahal here because of the fact that nobody looks at the Great Khali and is impressed anymore. They look at him and they go, this guy's extremely limited. He's not very good. He's not very exciting. And he's just kind of there. Like, he's a big dude who walks slowly.
He's just a really big dude. That's all he is. He's a really
and that's it. And on top of that, I mean, look, Randy Orton at this point is kind of like Teflon, but Randy Orton had to like really jump through hoops to sell like everything the Great Khali was doing, almost to the point of embarrassment. Like, it looked horrible. The way it all went down looked horrible. And it doesn't do any favors for anybody in that match. And that's kind of like why this pay-per-view just went off the air with a whimper, because no one cared. And that's not a good sign. When you have a main event match that goes on for nearly half an hour and no one cares, that doesn't benefit your champion, it doesn't benefit your challenger, and it doesn't excite your audience. So who wins? Indian fans in India? Okay. Well,
I think you hit it right there. It's from the standpoint too. Like, the most importantly, it didn't help your champion. I mean, hey, I understand that he's a heel, and he's getting some help from the Singh brothers, and they've done that in a few matches. Like, the two previous pay-per-view matches that he had were the same freaking matches, and I think they needed to do something differently to help Jinder. And then they do this match, and once again, there's interference. I guess you can say it makes sense, but there needs to come a point, I think, where Jinder just finds a way to win, even if he's doing heelish stuff, even if he's cheating, but without interference. He has to do it on his own and show, like, hey, man, nobody helped me. I told you I was going to do it, and I did it. I won the match, and I'm still the champ.
Yeah, I mean, there basically were three of the same matches. Like, even inside the Punjabi Prison, it was like the same match. Like, there are three of the same matches. And even the idea of the Punjabi Prison, which is supposed to keep away outside interference, to still have the Singh brothers get in there by like hiding under the ring.
One of them slid right through the structure, which I think any of them could have done. I think even Orton could have done it, but the only one that couldn't is the Great Khali. But like, he just like got down on his hands and knees and went right through the structure. And then one of them took a death bump off the top of it through the announcer's table, which is the only thing that, got the pulse out of, the audience there. But that was a hell of a bump that he took.
Yeah, that seems to be the only thing they're so good for is like severely getting their asses kicked after they interfere.
Do you think they flipped a coin to see which one was going to take the best spot there?
I mean, maybe they had to take turns after like the horrific head landing on the table. Like at the last
Orton and previous, yeah.
Where
Orton like threw him through the table and didn't realize how light he was and killed one of them and literally turned the camera and get his reaction like, oops.
Yeah.
Like, God, he might be dead.
But I mean, this is it's really strange because everybody continues to sort of like push the idea that like SmackDown is like still the show. Like SmackDown is the better show. SmackDown is better than Raw. SmackDown.
Not lately.
If you watch a pay-per-view like this, it is impossible to continue to make that argument because this was horrible from next to top to bottom. Like there's, I don't want to like continue to like relentlessly shit on this pay-per-view, but we're going to because it's horrible.
Right.
But like there is literally one match in this whole show that did anything for anybody, and then the rest of it was like watching a car crash just off of a cliff. Like it just got horrifically worse as the show went on.
Which match did you like or think was pretty good?
That would have been the opening contest, and not the pre-show match. Because we could look at the pre-show match and say Aiden, okay, they're trying to do something with Aiden English, I guess. And Aiden English defeats Ty Dillinger on the pre-show, and that really, in retrospect, kind of set the tone for the evening.
I thought the second half of the tag team match definitely got the crowd into it, and those guys did a really good job. The women's match was going along fine, and then they just did this flurry where three of them got eliminated within like 45 seconds. And then you get down to Charlotte and Natalya, and they only gave them 2 minutes. And that ended abruptly. And then you had AJ and Kevin Owens, which the crowd wasn't into. For whatever reason, their match was flat, which was really odd for those two guys. Some of it was, I think people just weren't into Kevin Owens' chin locks in this night. And then they had a weird finish come out of nowhere, which I could be swayed, but I think it was a botched finish, and I don't think Kevin was supposed to win.
I mean, the word that seems to be going around is that they made the call mid-match to change the finish.
Maybe,
but the finish was, but the finish was like super awkward.
Very much
because you had a ref bump, and then you had like the longest reversal into a pin ever, and a really slow 3 count, which once again didn't really do any favors for anybody because it looked so odd.
I think what happened was they did this reversal, and either AJ thought he had a shoulder up, or when the referee came to the ground to make the count, I didn't think maybe AJ missed the first count. So when the ref counted to 3, that was it. And AJ thought that was 2. Something I think might have happened there. Maybe it did go down the way that they wanted. It just seemed awkward. And then for AJ to win the title back just 2 days later really kind of felt like to me like, okay, something happened on Sunday and we had to right the ship on Tuesday.
See, I don't know. This whole thing feels like they just want to have these guys continue to fight and like jockey the title back and forth, which doesn't really help the title by constantly switching like every 4 days. You know, it switches at Madison Square Garden at a house show, which is fine if that's the way we're going to now go at the program. But then we go to the pay-per-view, and it switches again. And then they go back to SmackDown, and it switches again. And it's still between the same 2 guys. So I understand, like, you were trying to argue that these guys are so evenly matched that on any given night, either one of them can beat the other one. But if that's going to be the case, having the title on the line in between doesn't really help. Like, I'd rather you just have these 2 guys fight, and the title isn't a stake in their feud. Take it out of the equation put it somewhere else. Let it do what it does over there. Because these two guys don't necessarily need this title for their matches to mean anything. But I agree, like, the match felt kind of flat. I was disappointed because going into this match, after we had already seen a couple of flat matches before, I was hopeful that maybe this might be the match that sort of elevated the night because of what these two guys are capable of. And the fact that they sort of scaled back on their previous match with the count-out finish to sort of, extend the feud. But it didn't really come together at all. And this was the match that I thought could be a bright spot. And for that match to really not be it, once again, just sort of feeds into the whole of Battleground.
Yeah, it was just a strange night all the way through. Outside of, like I said, that the second half of that tag team match, there was something in the air. It was just that entire show just was off. And it's odd for any WWE show to be like that. Not all of them are going to be great. There's going to be ups and downs, but they normally have an off night like that. And especially with the amount of talent that was on that show. I mean, there was no saving that main event. We knew what it was going to be, but there were some other matches that should have been a lot better than they were, and they didn't come through. I think talent tried, but I never try to blame effort of the talent, but it just didn't click, from throughout the night.
Yeah, it didn't click. I thought the creative decisions made didn't help. And like I said, the tag team match I thought was easily the match of the night. The New Day defeat the Usos to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. But that match was exciting. It was back and forth. It was give and take. There were a lot of false finishes. There were a lot of times that you thought the match could end either way. And as a result, it was dramatic. The fans got into it. And that was to start the night. And everything after that just tailed off. So, Nakamura and Corbin kind of just was. And Corbin and Nakamura wins by disqualification in the most just odd, once again, another odd decision. Because there's not a title on the line. Nothing is really at stake except pride, I guess. So for Corbin to sort of just get himself disqualified with a low blow felt not consistent with sort of who he is. Like he's still a badass, and he will take some shortcuts. But I also don't think he would go out of his way necessarily to just get himself disqualified. He still wants to win matches. So for the way that went down, it didn't feel right.
That match was weird. I think whoever put that match together, they just didn't have the good idea for that one, because they did 2 bear hugs early on in that match, and it was totally off. And the funny thing was that match was just, like I said, it just didn't work. And then they did a rematch on SmackDown, and I thought the match was so much better on SmackDown. It was all right out of the gate, they went guns a-blazing. They picked up the tempo. There was no bear hugs. These guys just went back and forth at each other. And then Shinsuke won. And I was like, well, that's what I expected on the pay-per-view. But thank God they got it on SmackDown at least.
Let me ask you about the women's championship match, which we touched upon a little bit. Because, once again, you had 3 eliminations. It was a 5-women elimination match. Natalya, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Lana, and Tamina. 3 eliminations happen over the course of exactly 32 seconds.
Jeez.
And then, which doesn't really go to hashtag give divas a chance for things to go that quickly. And we've seen this before, though, with as you said, sort of multi-talent matches, which is that they get to a point where they are overbooked to a point of absurdity. And this was one of those. You could easily spread out eliminations if you want, but the whole match only took 11 minutes. That's with 5 women involved.
I know.
But I want to ask you about the call for Natalya to win the title. or not the title, to win the number one contendership to challenge Naomi at SummerSlam. Do you think that was the right direction for them to go now moving forward with the women's division as far as a challenger for Naomi?
I think what they wanted to do was they wanted to have a heel against Naomi for SummerSlam. And they wanted to have somebody that could have a good match with her. So it's a little bit out of the norm that it wasn't Charlotte and it wasn't Becky. So they decided to go with Natalya. And I think it definitely opens up the door for Carmella to cash in her Money in the Bank case, following, that match. That's the only thing that I can think of with that, because, like, Charlotte's not really a heel anymore. You can't really say she's a babyface, but she's not a heel. Becky is basically a babyface. They're not going to do Lana and Naomi for a third time. And I don't think they wanted to put Tamina in that position. And I think Tamina's fine, but they probably wanted to make sure they could have a better match at SummerSlam. And Natalya's a little bit more polished, or a lot more polished, being nice to Tamina. There's nothing wrong with Tamina. She's fine. But Natalya's going to have a better match with Naomi, and she's a better known, quantity. So that's the match that they decided to go with. It was a little bit different. I thought maybe they were going to go with Becky and just say, hey, we're not going to worry about this babyface heel dynamic. They've kind of thrown that out the door in a lot of instances. But, they wanted to have it, so they went with Natalya.
Yeah, I'm the Carmella potential cash-in at SummerSlam, I think, is an interesting wrinkle. But on top of that, do you think that this is then a stretch for them to have sort of a long reigning babyface champion at the top of the SmackDown Women's division?
I would like to see that. I mean, that's the whole thing with Carmella, because if they're going to go the traditional route and she cashes in and she wins it, then it ends that real quick. But I like the idea of Naomi being the champion and holding on to it. I mean, hell, I'd like to build them up to a Naomi Charlotte thing, because Naomi will tell you, I am the most athletic female in all of WWE. And she's being very honest about that. And it's not like she's putting down anybody, but she will tell you, like, myself and Charlotte are the two most athletic women here in the company. And I believe that I am more athletic than she is. And I mean, that's just it's a little thing, but it's something that you can definitely build on towards, having a match. And why not? You got Charlotte, who's been basically the queen of the women's division for, the past year and a half. Naomi, a long running champion, on the SmackDown brand. Why not build up to, a big match between the two of them? I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, the thing with Natalya for me is that it seems to have come out of nowhere. Because let's face it, like, Natalya's been up, she's been down, she's been up, she's been down, she's in, she's out. Like, she's never been really pushed as a consistent contender. And I think this is always one of their problems. And I don't want to say that the division lacks depth on either side, even though at times it does seem like the roster is short for the women on either Raw or SmackDown. But I think it just speaks to sort of the lack of effort and interest put into building these women besides whoever's in sort of the title picture at the time. Because, you have now Becky and Charlotte, who just seem to be stuck in a limbo. Like, there's nothing really going on for them. They're just kind of there. And it's unfortunate because we know how talented they both are. But they just are existing on SmackDown right now with no real purpose or direction. So that when somebody like Natalya sort of leapfrogs them, and we've seen sort of Natalya come and go and do what she does, to me it feels unexciting. Like, I understand, like, the idea of, like, let's make a new contender, but at the same time, if that's the case, it's hard to just spring somebody into the number one contendership and get people to buy in right away. Like, the idea should be for people to have already bought into them so that when they win, it feels legitimate and it doesn't feel like a potential fluke.
Well, I think it's going to come down to now, like, what do they do between now and SummerSlam to get you excited about that match. To me, that's where it's going to be. Like, are people going to get, geeked about a match between those two? And what are they going to do to drive the emotion out of fans and say, hey, you know what, this match, there's a lot riding on this. It's a championship match, obviously. Natalya, she is a veteran. She's very good in the ring. She poses a real challenge, and plus she's gotten under the skin on Naomi. Naomi is the champion. She wants to prove that she, is the rightful champion, that she can thwart off a challenge from Natalya. It's where they booked Natalya, though. Like you said, like we've seen Charlotte and we've seen Becky kind of be the heads of the women's division, especially on SmackDown. And you've got Natalya, who's always been very good, but, they've always kind of kept her like one layer below. She's the mentor for everybody. And now they've decided, hey, we're going to put her in a big match. So it's just a little bit different for the way that they've used Natalya, and if people are really going to buy into it.
I mean, they made Jinder Mahal a legitimate contender over a matter of weeks,
right?
And put the title on him. So anything's possible.
By the way, somebody pointed this out. Can you imagine if, say, you went back to the year, I think it was 2014, and you told somebody John Cena is going to wrestle Shinsuke Nakamura, and the winner will face the WWE champion Jinder Mahal at SummerSlam? You would have blown their mind.
I want to table that for just a minute because I do want to talk about John Cena. So let's table Cena and Nakamura for just a second. But let's talk about John Cena and Rusev in a flag match. Which essentially just looked like a giant flag on a pole match that then had the added pedestals.
And guys were trying to walk as slowly as possible. Oh, my body aches. Oh, as they tried to slowly, dramatically walk down the ramp and let the other guy catch him so he can, beat him up going, towards the pedestals on the top of the stage.
This match took forever.
Yeah.
This match took forever. I mean, it was just so goddamn long. And once again,
went over 20 minutes. Didn't
it? It was like a 21-minute match. So it's only a few
no wonder
minutes.
This damn pay-per-view ran long.
Yeah, and it was so long.
Do you think Rusev was confused, considering that Rusev has already had a flag match in WWE, but they had different rules than the flag match he had on Sunday night?
They did have different rules. And first of all, let me just add something else to talk about how horrible this pay-per-view was. So when they set up for the flag match, they have these giant poles that they attach to the ends of the ring posts, and then the flag's just supposed to jut out from there. They don't jut out towards the ring; they jut out like towards the crowd. I guess so they can get like a really nice shot of it, but it just looks super awkward.
Can't reach the damn thing?
Yeah. So they're so high on the pole that like even watching it, I was like, how the hell are these guys supposed to get these flags down? Because they're super up there. And then on top of that, okay, but to make matters worse, when they put the poles up on the ring posts, they don't put the flags in there. So when the guys come down to the ring, they have this little short white guy with glasses climb on top of the ring post to put the flags in there. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see this little nerdy looking guy climb up on top and
was it Harvey Whippleman?
He definitely had a Harvey Whippleman type quality to him. He may have been a distant cousin. I'm not lying. The resemblance is definitely kind of there. And it was just super awkward to just like this is supposed to be like a almost $1 billion global enterprise, and they have this little short guy climbing up and sticking the flag on the pole. And then, and this is before like a 20-minute. The official clock time on the match is 21 minutes and 10 seconds. I can tell you in watching it, it felt like 47. This match was so long. We've seen these guys fight before. Rusev is like, the shine is off Rusev right now because he was away. He was coming back from injury, and they didn't really do anything to reincorporate him back except have John Cena step up and beat him again. And John Cena's been sort of, doing his own thing right now. So you got two guys who really haven't been around for a while, jumping into a flag match, which no one cares about. And yeah, that's really the sort of the story of Battleground is you had 8 matches in total that no one cared about. Nobody cared. No one gave a shit about anything that happened on this show. If you were to tell someone in 6 months, hey, do you remember Battleground? They would have wiped it from their memory. I
hope they wipe it from their memory.
I hope they wipe it from the network. Well, like this thing we shouldn't even be subjected to this thing existing anymore. And then there was still another match.
It wasn't as bad as December to Dismember.
That was an all-timer. That was an all-timer. And I asked a friend how this overall pay-per-view compared to the House of Horrors match. They still went with the House of Horrors. I think it's debatable. I think if you eliminate the New Day and the Usos match from this card and you take the other 7 matches, collectively, I think they give the House of Horrors match a run for their money. It's...
Well, they did try to drop a refrigerator on somebody, so...
that is true. Look, and then you still had, like, Sami Zayn and Mike Kanellis, which also a match no one cared about. So...
Why do these referees keep allowing Maria Kanellis to get in the ring in the middle of a match and there's no
and
DQ?
Wander around?
It's just like, are we under like TNA rules or something here? Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, and didn't Mike Kanellis like just have his first match? Like, didn't he just made his in-ring debut? And he's already losing to Sami Zayn?
He beat Sami Zayn in the first one because Maria got in the ring and distracted Zayn that allowed Kanellis or Mike to hit a big move and then I think hit his finisher and pinned him. Then they tried to do the same thing here, but Sami Zayn learned from his previous mistake, ducked I think a high kick or something, nailed Mike, threw him in the corner, hit him with the haluva kick, and pinned him.
How does that help Mike Kanellis? A guy who nobody really knows in the WWE universe.
I would have put him in with somebody else other than Sami Zayn. I don't know exactly who that would have been, but I would have given him a few more wins first. And he's already he could be a good mid-card act. He still could, but they're already treating him like, he's just fodder already. Like, I'm not into this gimmick.
Yeah, isn't that what Dolph Ziggler's for? Like, isn't that what Dolph Ziggler's for? Is to be fed to the new guy who shows up in town.
But Dolph's a heel now, and so is Mike Kanellis.
You could look how many times they flipped Dolph Ziggler like the Big Show. So, like, what?
Right. Why he's a heel too. Mike Kanellis is a heel because he took his wife's last name.
Yeah. And that's about it. Like, it's all right. Brian, let me ask you a very simple question. Did anybody come out of Battleground better off than when they started?
Xavier Woods did, because the New Day won the tag team titles, and this is the first time in Xavier Woods' career he ever made a pin to win a championship. Oh, you went deep on the stats on this one. All right. You like that, huh?
Yes, I do. Brian Fritz went into the WWE archives and pulled out a nugget for you. So,
or maybe I watched the 3-minute clip of the New Day following the match where they explained that.
which was very good.
By the way, in this clip, they did, and they put this on Twitter too. Kofi Kingston is the first person to ever win the WWE World Raw and SmackDown Tag Team titles.
So he's like a Triple Crown winner. He
is a 13. I believe he's a 13-time, either a 13-time champion or a 13-time tag team champion.
Jesus, all right, good for you.
He's
Kofi.
the most decorated African American wrestler in WWE history,
and gets zero credit for that.
Yeah, basically.
You would think that'd be a thing that they would play up. No, not at all. So overall, I think we can both agree. Battleground 2017. Yeah, this was horrible.
Like I was talking to somebody and they said like, wow, that was one way to be on, like, is there another pay-per-view going on before SummerSlam? I was like, God, no, this has been like, I think they've done like a couple pay-per-views for each brand before they got to it. And I said, no, this was the road to get on the road to SummerSlam. And
this was bad.
Yeah, this was a detour to where now they're on the road to SummerSlam, and hopefully we can wipe it from our minds.
Yeah, so my recommendation is if you haven't seen WWE Battleground this past weekend, don't. Listen, we took the bullets for you on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go read the Wikipedia page. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't even do that.
If you really want, read the Wikipedia page, and you'll be done.
Yeah. That's the best way, because other than the New Day and the Usos, that's the only match I'll tell you can maybe go watch. Okay, so look, that's the one benefit. If you choose to watch the New Day and the Usos, which I thought was very good, you can put on the beginning of Battleground, watch that match, because it's the very first match. You put on the beginning of Battleground, watch that match, then turn it off. I just saved you about 3 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
That's 3 hours of life you were never going to get back. I just saved it for you. So
just go binge watch something on Netflix.
Yeah, or just go watch the G1 Climax.
Yes, you can definitely do that as well.
Yeah,
Man, it's hard to keep up on. There's so much wrestling going on with the G1.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up on everything.
There's too many
I'm
nights.
to the point now where I kind of nitpick on like, all right, okay, I'm going to watch part of this show. I'm only going to watch part of it though. So I'm like, okay, which part should I watch? And I know what matches are going to be on there. I'm like, okay, I'll watch these matches and leave it at that. But hell, there's so much good stuff that's going on in the G1. I mean, between Okada and Omega always having their fantastic work, and Kota Ibushi's freaking killing it as well. And there's other guys having really good matches as well. But those three in particular are, are really standing out so far.
Yeah, the fact that the G1 Climax is going on right now and this pay-per-view happened, it's beyond frustrating. Don't watch Battleground. Take your time. Put it to better use as far as your wrestling is concerned. Go watch the G1 Climax in New Japan Pro-Wrestling and avoid this dumpster fire. So Brian, always a pleasure having you on the podcast to talk wrestling. I'm sorry it had to be Battleground this time around.
I'm glad we got to be part of this experience together.
Yeah. Well, misery loves company. Before I let you go, let everybody know out there where they can find all your excellent work on the interwebs.
Sure. You can subscribe to the Between the Ropes podcast on all the different platforms, iTunes and Stitcher, Google Play, and on the TuneIn app. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Brian Fritz, and that will be the place where you can also find the different posts I put up on Sporting News as well.
My good, long-time, old friend, who we talk about chicken wings with Steve Carino, Brian Fritz. Thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure.
Same here, buddy.
All right, and you know what? It is time for the Tom Nix portion of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our resident expert-in-chief is all around the world right now. Where in the world is Tom Nix? Right now, he is actually in an airport just so we can talk about this week's homework. So, Tom, where are you right now?
Right now, I am in the wonderful city of Atlanta in the wonderful state of Georgia for about another 25 minutes, and then I will be in Indianapolis after that.
And this is not wrestling related. These travels are not wrestling related, which is amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Not wrestling related. I know it's weird and hard to comprehend, but it's true.
But so, talking to us from the terminal during a layover, we have some homework to talk about. And I know we've been excited to talk about this and some more New Japan Pro Wrestling. So the homework for this week was going to the G1 Climax, to the main event of Night 1 with Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi, closing out Night 1. So
Billy,
go ahead.
Billy, how many times do you think Tetsuya Naito died during this match?
Oh my God, dude! This is a rough match, man. This is tough to watch, and this is like a really fierce Kota Ibushi in this match. You know, a lot of people I think are used to a certain side of Kota Ibushi, and this was a vicious Kota Ibushi that got unleashed during this match, complete with top rope pile driver.
Yeah, This is potentially the most. I don't want to say hardcore because it's not quite hardcore, but it's pretty close. Like you said, this is the most violent Ibushi has been in a very long time. Like, you normally think of Ibushi as smiling golden star, can obviously kick your head off and whatnot, but you don't really think of him as cruel. And some of the stuff he pulls off in this match almost seems cruel.
Yeah, it's a brutal match to the point that half of the crowd watching this match started cheering for Naito, who they hate.
Well, they're supposed to hate him, but they don't hate him. He's probably one of the most popular guys on the roster. We'll talk about it a little afterward, but if you watched his post-match promo, because normally, every single main eventer, whoever wins that match, gets to give a little speech afterward, and he had that crowd in the palm of his hand. No one was booing Tetsuya Naito that night. No one.
Well, you know what I mean. Look, Kota Ibushi is beloved by a great deal of fans, and Kota Ibushi was able to make Naito sympathetic during this match.
That's correct.
And that's an interesting thing. It's not really like a double turn of sorts, but when you can make a guy that's really despicable sympathetic to the audience, that's a really impressive feat to pull off over the span of 28 minutes.
Yeah, there were some absolutely brutal spots in that match, and Naito. Excuse me, that Naito took almost all of them.
Yeah, he really did. And and this was, so I did the bonus homework too. So I watched this match and I did the bonus homework. So I did Goto and Ishii. I also did Zack Sabre Jr. and Tanahashi.
Tanahashi.
Yeah, and I also did this. And what I found, at least across the three matches, is, as you said, the booking committee of New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't give a shit what you think is going to happen. Because this was the opening night. This was night 1. So you have Ibushi going down to Naito and in the main event, which is fine because Naito, like we said, he's still a major player. As Kevin Kelly, who I'm starting to get much more impressed by every time I watch him call New Japan Pro Wrestling action, stressed, especially when it comes to the G1. Naito averages almost 12 points. He's 12 and a half points average in all of his G1 performances. So that just proves that he's a player.
He's historically very good at the G1, and obviously he won it one year in 2013. He won it, but Yeah, he's historically very, very good in that tournament. Yes, but correct. The bookers hate you, and as the nights progress, they hate you even more. So, but yeah, I was thrilled to see Zack Sabre Jr. take the victory over Tanahashi. And speaking of brutal, I really think that Zack Sabre Jr. is going to come out of this tournament a star in New Japan, because he's putting in some really solid work and coming off as a legitimate threat.
Yeah, he's a legitimate threat. He's a legitimate submission specialist. Everything that he executes looks like it really hurts. And Tanahashi was the perfect guy for him to kind of open up with. You know, he has a torn bicep, so they can easily factor that into the story of the match. And Tanahashi is historically a horrible starter in the G1 Climax, apparently. So he should just stop wrestling his first match. And just forfeit.
Correct.
Let's save us all the time and hope, and let's move on. And then the other match, which I also thought was a surprise, was Ishii losing to Goto, because at that point, let's not forget, Ishii just came off of like a star-making turn at the G1 special in USA, and here he loses like immediately. I mean, that's also a rough match.
That was
and tough.
That was a really good match, though. That was really good.
Yes,
that was a lot of hard hitting.
Yes, and you know how much I love watching two Japanese guys beat the shit out of each other.
So basically, you will love every match that Tomohiro Ishii is in, because that's what happens.
That is correct. He is kind of my guy, so I'm not going to argue that. But look, we gave an assignment for one match, which was Ibushi versus Naito, and once again, I love the fact that they continue to protect Destino as best as they possibly can as Naito's finisher. They sell it as everything working towards the execution of that move. So then when he does hit it, it matters. Finishers matter here with a guy like him. He may need to hit it like twice, but it does matter. And that match had a really solid build. What's up?
I was going to say that isn't that refreshing that finishers actually matter in New Japan? That like typically when you hit one, more often than not, the match is over and not like a dramatic kick out at 2.5.
Yes, for all you youngsters out there, once upon a time, back in the day, that's what it used to be like. So whether it's the Rainmaker, whether it's Destino, these are moves that matter, and when their impact happens, it counts for something. We assigned Ibushi versus Naito, which I thought was really solid. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tanahashi, I thought was really solid. Goto versus Ishii, I thought was really solid. So as we said, the three matches of night one, you couldn't really pick one that went wrong. They were all really outstanding matches.
And honestly, go back and watch. I cannot remember for the life of me who he fights. It might be Juice Robinson. I think it is Juice Robinson. But go back and watch that Nagata Juice Robinson match. Nagata is one of the old guard of New Japan. He's close to 50 or in his 50s, and this is kind of his last little, probably his final G1 ever. And he has got his working boots on every night, and he is putting on great matches with everybody.
Well, I mean, you sold me a Juice Robinson. Like you sold me a Juice Robinson. So that's all you had to say is like, hey, watch this Juice Robinson match. And I was already in.
Specifically is very good. But yeah, like every single time that Block A rolls around, just because Yuji Nagata is 51 or 52, don't just fast forward through his matches, because he is putting on the performance of his career. Like spoiler alert, he's not winning any of them, but like he is putting a clinic on.
All right, so look, we have a ton of New Japan. Look, the G1 Climax is like going full force. It's a ton of wrestling to try and keep track of because it's like tons of matches, several nights a week. So you got to put in some work to keep track of stuff. Even though you can still follow along and get the gist of what's happening, but you also don't want to cheat, missing out on any outstanding matches. So my prediction right now, Tom, is that for this week's homework, you got more G1 for us.
I don't know how you guessed that.
I don't know. Yeah, I just call it telepathy.
So, yes, I'm going to continue with two relatively recent matches because we've had. I think we're in night 7 or night 8 of the G1 now. So we've had quite a few great matches. But I'm actually going to assign 2 matches.
Excellent.
Specifically for you, Billy. Because there's a lot to catch up on.
Yes.
But I'm going to take one of your newer favorite wrestlers, and I'm going to give you both of his matches against 2 of your existing favorite wrestlers.
Oh!
So I want you all to go and watch the G1 G1 matches. I want to say it's night 6 and 7, but it might be 5 and 7. No, I think it's 6 and 7. I think that's right, but it's easy to find them. I want you to go and watch Big Mike Elgin versus Kazuchika Okada, and then follow that immediately by Big Mike Elgin versus Kenny Omega.
Whoa.
You will have a great night of wrestling.
Okay, so for this week's homework, we got a double shot of Michael Elgin, one against the Rainmaker and my personal favorite, the greatest wrestler on the planet right now, Kazuchika Okada, and then we also have Michael Elgin versus arguably 1A in the best wrestler on the planet.
Basically.
Against Kenny Omega. So we're going to, I think it's 6 and 7. We'll double check this. So night 6 and 7 of the G1 Climax. Double shot of Michael Elgin. First against Kazuchika Okada. Second against Kenny Omega. How this dude wrestled these guys in back-to-back matches. Woo, that's a workload. I'll tell you that much.
You ain't lying. These matches are both incredible, and just to get you a little more excited, I'm going to tell you that one of these matches features a burning hammer, and I'm not going to tell you who does it on who.
Oh, man. The only way this could have been better is if Juice Robinson was ringside. All right, Tom, look, I know you got to catch a flight, so before I let you go ahead and do your Twitter song.
Yeah, that's right. You can follow me on Twitter at TheTomNix. That's TheTomNix. That's me.
All right, man. Make sure you buckle up and follow all those safety instructions. And we'll see you on the grounds wherever you land next to talk more G1 next week. All right, Tom. Safe travels, my friend.
Yes, sir. I apologize for the abbreviated stay this week, y'all. But next week we will be and trust me, we'll be talking about Big Mike for quite some time.
All right, Tom. Safe travels.
Bye.
So there you have it, my friends. Tons of wrestling on this week's show. Plenty of bad, but some really good stuff. I know we keep saying it time and time again. New Japan Pro-Wrestling is killing it right now. So, I'm trying to convert some people over to this side to check out some things that they otherwise previously may not have checked out. So if you haven't really dipped in to New Japan Pro Wrestling, the G1 Climax is a perfect place to get exposure to all the talent and see what's going on there. And look, you got more homework. So 2 Michael Elgin matches, one against Kazuchika Okada and one against Kenny Omega on tap for your homework next week. Get those assignments done. Don't procrastinate. Get them done. They'll make for a really good weekend for you to dip into those 2 matches during the G1 Climax. So, look, I want to thank my good friend Brian Fritz for taking the time out to talk WWE Battleground, even though that didn't really shake out too well for either of us. But, it's just the way wrestling is. Sometimes you have a good night, and then you have a battleground. And of course, my thanks to my good friend, the expert-in-chief, Tom Nix, for joining us right in the midst of his travels to be able to talk New Japan Pro Wrestling. Look, there's a couple of things I need you to take care of for me, okay? Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Intelligent Wrestling Conversation, on, wherever you get your podcast from. Whether it's iTunes, whether it's Stitcher, whether it's Google Play, whether it's SoundCloud or Blueberry or TuneIn, find us there, click the little subscribe button, and every episode that we give to you will be brought to your device and you can listen to it hand-delivered. You never have to miss one, and it'll notify you when a brand new one comes out. So subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Rate the podcast, so give us our 5 stars for that 5-star effort. That helps as far as podcast placement is concerned. So just give us a nice nod for the hard work and good job that we're putting in for you. And comment. Let other people know what it is you like about the podcast and why they should be listening to the podcast. Word of mouth always helps, so make sure you tell your fellow wrestling fans about the IWC podcast so they can listen too. Follow me on Twitter at InfamousKid. That's me and my 140 characters talking a lot of wrestling lately, it seems. And look, make sure you follow Brian Fritz at Brian Fritz and at Tom Nix, at the Tom Nix. So Tom Nix is there as well. And make sure you follow this particular podcast on Twitter as well, at the IWC Show, at the IWC Show. For any time wrestling stuff comes up, you follow us, you'll get a nod for it, and you'll get to keep track of what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. So for my good friend Brian Fritz, for my good friend Tom Nix, and for me, I've been your host, Billy Donnelly. This has been Intelligent Wrestling Conversation. See you back here next week talking more wrestling. I'm out for now. Peace. Intelligent Wrestling Conversation has been a podcast presentation of This Is Infamous.